Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is about organic. And we're going to talk about it from just a little bit different perspective than maybe you've heard in the past. And there's organic and there's conventional. And then there's GMO, but we're lumping GMO and conventional together and you'll see why. So organic works with the soil. And that's like the major thing with organic farming and organic agriculture. What they do is they focus on growing healthy soil. Conventionally grown agriculture, what they do is they depend on pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and things like that. And they have monocultures, which means you'll see cornfields for acres and acres and acres. They don't have the diversity. So weeds in a organic farm are like a symptom. So one thing is we don't want to be sterile because weeds actually perform a function. You don't want to be overgrown with weeds, but weeds actually do perform a function. And it leads to higher productivity if you have a few weeds in with the crops, because the weeds, they go down, the roots go down, and they bring the minerals up closer to the top of the soil so that the crop can utilize it. So the other thing about organic farming is insects. They look at insects also as a symptom. And what are things that can be done to deal with the insect population? And there's ladybugs, which I think, you know, a lot of us know about ladybugs. You can buy ladybugs and you can put them on your garden and they eat the aphids. So there's ways to control insects and weeds and all these things naturally, and ways that are going to help to produce good healthy crops. So kind of a little bit what we're going to talk about. Now, strawberries. If you have a conventional strawberry, this is what you will be eating. And it is a long laundry list of chemicals. So what they do is they fumigate the soil, and all sorts of chemicals are used in that fumigation. And then they apply pesticides and fertilizers and herbicides. And you've seen, like if you pass by on the freeway, you see the strawberry fields and they've got that black plastic over and the strawberries are poking out. Well, they're just like little sponges and they are absorbing everything. And the problem with organic strawberries is you can't wash them to clean it off, and you can't peel it to clean it off. These are sponges, and so everything that strawberry is absorbing is what you're absorbing. So if you have an organically grown strawberry, you get a strawberry. So, and you've heard about like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Well, Dirty Dozen strawberries like #1. Like, don't consume any berries in general, but don't consume strawberries unless they're organic. And it's because of the way that they're grown. So we're going to talk about the truth about a lot of stuff here. And I love this. It's the pill that everybody wants, but nobody wants to swallow it. Nobody wants to believe the truth and things that are out there. And there's a couple things we're going to talk about that I discovered that were quite disturbing to me. So, conventionally grown foods. We're told that we have to have conventionally grown foods because there's like almost 8 billion people on this planet, and how are we going to feed all these people? You have to have monocultures because you're going to have better yields. And you have to, have all these sprays so you can get rid of the weeds. And there's a lot of stuff that we're told that just kind of something that's accepted. If you repeat a lie over and over again, it starts to sound like it's true. But the reality is that what they're telling us about conventionally grown foods actually is a lie. So we're going to get into that. Now, super weeds. So they're telling us we have to have conventionally grown foods because we need the sprays so that we can get rid of the weeds. Well, I already told you weeds do perform a function. Of course, you don't want to be overgrown by weeds, but they do perform a function. But now we have super weeds. And look at this picture. This weed is massive. So within 2 years of spraying, like high heavy spraying, like with the soy, because that was the first genetically modified seed that was put out on the market, within 2 years we had one of these big, huge super weeds. Well, now we have 24 varieties. It's probably more, but now we have 24 varieties. So if our herbicides are doing the job that they say that they're doing, and if everything was so great and wonderful, why are we having super weeds? You know, it just doesn't make sense. So now we have chemists that are busy working. Let's get something more lethal so that we could kill the super weeds. So one of the other lies that they tell you is we have to have these massive monocultures and the industrial agriculture so we could feed these billions of people on this planet. Well, the truth is there's over 570 million farms in the world, and 90% of those are from the small farmer, and they're, you know, family-owned farms. And not so much here in the U.S. In the U.S. we've been systematically getting rid of the family farm. But these family farms, they produce about 80% of the world's food. So to say that we have to have conventionally grown foods, again, it's another lie that we're being told, and you know, it's just accepted. You know, we're being told as little kids, that's what's in the school books, and it's just something that's accepted. And so Einstein, one of my favorite people, he says you can't solve your problems with the same level of thinking that caused them. But that's what we're doing with trying to get another super duper herbicide to get rid of the super weeds. You know, it's the same level of thinking. So this is actual craziness. Craziness. You all know what that is, or insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's what we're doing here in the agriculture. So we can't talk about agriculture without talking about Monsanto. The two go hand in hand. And I'm talking about more than just the GMOs. We've all heard about GMOs. GMOs are bad. But Monsanto's not just about GMOs. Monsanto's about way more than just GMOs. So I believe this quote here. Either mankind will stop Monsanto or Monsanto will stop mankind. And we need to be aware of what's going on so that we could spread the word, so that we can make a difference. And we can make a difference. So this is another quote, and this is from an organization, eatlocalgrown.com. And basically what he's saying is that this food crisis began way earlier. It wasn't Monsanto. It's when we start getting disconnected from the farmer and disconnected from the earth and disconnected and start eating, you know, packaged food and fast food in the car. That's when all of this stuff really took off. That's when Monsanto started really taking over. You know, we weren't being vigilant, and we were so separated from where our food comes from. And that's the solution, is getting back to where does our food come from? You know, supporting the local farmers. I'm a big fan of going to the local farmers market. But of course you got to talk to your farmer, and you got to find out, you know, which one is growing it organically and what do they use on the produce. But getting connected with the food, and even growing a little garden yourself. Maybe it's just an herb garden, but just, you know, taking those little steps. So let's talk about Monsanto's history. So Monsanto's founded in 1901. Their first drug was aspirin. or sorry, is saccharin was their first product, but they produced aspirin and synthetic chemicals. They began making agrochemicals like 2,4-D and Agent Orange, and then they began making pesticides. So we've got the herbicides that they're making, and then we have the pesticides that they're making. Oops. And so Agent Orange was horrible. I mean, there's advertisements that you could see that Monsanto put out about how safe Agent Orange is. And these pictures, if you can see them, they're absolutely horrifying. I mean, the misery that these poor people went through because Monsanto sprayed and defoliated, you know, all over Vietnam. And then there's people that came back, you know, some of our soldiers that had exposure to this, and then those people were fighting cancer. Yeah, I had a friend of mine that passed away, and he got cancer from the Agent Orange. So it was misery on this side and misery over there in Vietnam, and just misery everywhere with the Agent Orange. And this is Monsanto. They're the ones that are spraying our produce. So they stopped with the Agent Orange. However, it was a big fight. You know, they did not willingly say, okay, you know, there's a problem with Agent Orange. They put up a huge fight. And it wasn't until they were forced to take it off the market that they finally took it off the market. But now we have glyphosate. So does that make you feel so much safer? So that is what Roundup is. And so it's the same company, same scientists. So a little bit more about Monsanto. They're the first ones to make the growth hormone for the dairy cows. Now this just is another absolute fiasco. When these poor dairy cows are, you know, injected with these growth hormones, their udders get infected, and then of course when the cow is milked, all that infection and pus goes in the milk, and it gets into, you know, the big vat, and then at least it's pasteurized and homogenized, so it makes it safe, I guess. Anyway, but it's really gross. But it's because of all the chemicals. So it's not natural farming. It's not what you know, these images where you see this, you know, this girl in her braids and she's out there milking the cow. This is industrial farming, and there's nothing humane about it. But what's in your milk, if you have regular milk from the supermarket, all these chemicals. They give the cows anti-inflammatory medications, they give them antibiotics, they give them antifungal medication. The bottom one here is triclosan. Now triclosan I did a talk on a couple months ago, and that is the hand sanitizer. And that's something that they're going to be hopefully taking off the market because, again, it's creating these super bacteria that we're not able to fight. So, so all of these chemicals, and there's hormones and steroids and all sorts of deliciousness in that milk. So this is if you go out and you buy the regular milk at the grocery store. And in 1996, that's when Roundup Ready soybeans were first introduced in the market. Okay, so look at this picture. This is a picture of Kraft. All of these foods are produced by Kraft. And all of these foods use that wonderful milk that we've just been discussing. So in your Oreo cookies, your Chip Ahoy, oh, your Honey Maid graham crackers, Ritz crackers, Tang, Capri Sun, like all of these use that. Lunchables. So it's just another reason to get connected with your food. You know, where is your food coming from? You know, is it coming from an actual farm, or is it coming from, you know, a chemical factory? And this here are all different companies that use Monsanto products. So we've got the Green Giant, we've got Carnation, Pepsi, we've got Coke. So your sodas, oh, Orville Redenbacher's uses Monsanto's products. Power bars, use them. Morningstar, Nature Valley. So these brands also that, you know, you kind of think that they're good for you. Oh, it's Nature Valley. No, it's not. It's not good for you. Ocean Spray. Let's see what else is up there. Aunt Jemima, Betty Crocker, Kellogg's. I mean, these are like on every single grocery store shelf, practically. You know, you go into a regular grocery store, this is everywhere. So again, it's time to get connected with our food. Where is our food coming from? So a little bit more about Monsanto. So 1982 is when they made the first genetically engineered plant cell. And this was the part that was most disturbing to me. Robert Horsch, he is a part of the team that was responsible for that technology. And after 25 years with Monsanto, he left so that he could go join the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So, look at this. Third generation of rats that are fed GMOs are sterile. I don't know if you've heard anything about Mr. Bill Gates and about some of his agenda, but he's into zero population.
Yeah.
And he does not want the, you know, the growth of the human race, really. Mm-hmm. And he's also targeting Africa. So we had, you know, we've got Robert Horsch going to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Mm-hmm. Now another thing is Bill Gates has come out and he has defended GMOs. So he's defended GMOs, but he's got financial ties. $23 million worth of Monsanto stock is what he's got. So he's pretty invested in Monsanto. So there's these ties that you start seeing between Monsanto, Bill Gates, and you start looking at the agenda that people have here, and it's a little bit scary. It's another reason to get involved and become aware of what's going on with your food. So I just had to put this in here. I like this one. Enjoy Monsanto food. We made Agent Orange and Roundup, and now we're making your food. And there's only, oh, I like this. We use only the finest dioxin in our GMOs. And side effects can include organ damage, digestive disorders, birth defects, and cancer. So again, not stuff that I want to be eating, not stuff I want my kids or my family to be eating either. So Monsanto controls our food, poisons our land, and influences all three branches of our government. So we've got Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas was a Monsanto attorney. Clarence Thomas has never decided anything against Monsanto. I mean, it's just, Monsanto has pervaded our everyday life. It's all around us, all different levels, in ways that you may not even be aware of. Now, FDR says that a nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. With all the chemicals, with the herbicides, with the fungicides, with the pesticides, we're destroying our soil. And we are destroying our nation in doing that. Now, there's this guy here, William Albrecht. This guy was amazing. He was a man ahead of his time. I wish he was still around now, but he was a genius when it came to soils. And he felt that the health of the animal and the health of the human is pretty much a photograph of the health of the soil. And if you look at what's happening to us now, and we're getting less and less healthy as the generations go on, it's, you know, goes right in line with what's going on with the soil. Our soil is getting less and less healthy. You know, we're having diseases in the soil, and we don't have that vibrant life in their soil anymore. And one of the things people are concerned about when it rains is, oh, there's going to be all this runoff. Well, if we had living soil, we wouldn't have to worry about all that runoff, because the living soil sucks up the water and retains it. So he saw a direct link between soil quality, food quality, and human health. And one of the problems is like he was getting very outspoken. And he was forced out of his position and forced to retire early because they told him, if you don't stop teaching this, then you're out of here. And he says, well, I'm not going to stop teaching it. And what he did is his discipline was soil. But he's like, I can't separate the soil from human health, from animal health, from plant health, from economics. I can't separate those things. And so he learned about all of those. And the school was telling him, no, you can only teach about soil. You can't teach about anything else. And so therefore, he quit, which incredible man of integrity. So healthy soil yields healthy foods. Healthy foods, you get healthy people, healthy animals. So it all starts with the soil. The soil is really paramount. And again, organic farming goes back to that. Organic farming says, let's look at the soil. How do we make the soil more nutrient rich? It's like the human body. If you look at the human body and say, okay, I have diabetes. Well, you're not deficient in diabetes medication. Figure out, why do you have the diabetes? Is it your diet? What are you doing? Are you sedentary? What is going on? Well, it's the same thing, with the soil. Don't look at the soil and say, oh my God, there's weeds and there's bugs. Okay, why is there weeds? Why is there bugs? And that's what the organic farmer looks at. Okay, here's another very disturbing thing about Monsanto. In 2005, they grabbed up 40% of the vegetable seeds. Now, they've also gobbled up, fruit seeds and other types of seeds. But in 2005, they bought this one company, and they gobbled up 40% of the vegetable seeds. Now, all of these companies here, you're not going to buy a package of seeds at the Home Depot or Lowe's and it's going to say Monsanto on it. It's not going to do that. It's going to have one of these other names on here. Fairy Morse, Earl May seed. All of these other seeds, this is what they own. And so that's what makes this also a little bit more difficult. It's not that easy. You can't pick up a box on the shelf and look for the Monsanto logo on there, because they buy it, but then they have it in another name. So what they're doing is they're buying up all the seeds. If you control the food, you control the people. So it's all about power. They're buying up organic seed companies. And so it's still an organic seed, but they have a master plan. Now, how many people have heard of Vandana Shiva? Okay, Vandana Shiva, she's another one of my heroes. This is an Indian woman. She's brilliant. She's trained in quantum mechanics, I think, a physicist. Anyway, she's very involved in what's going on with the soil, and very much so in India. She's led some huge battles in India, kicking Coca-Cola out for a brief period of time. Monsanto has come in, and Monsanto has told the Indian farmers, look, if you buy our cotton seed, mostly cotton, but if you buy our cotton seed, then you're going to have higher yields, and it's just so much easier to grow. And the farmers said, okay, great. They bought the seeds, the farmers, cotton seeds from them, gave them the GMO cotton seed, and it didn't work. You had to use so many pesticides and so many herbicides. You had to use so many chemicals, so the farmers couldn't afford that. They mortgaged their farms so that they could buy these seeds with this promise that they're going to have this big, huge yield, and they didn't. And farmers are killing themselves like every 30 minutes there's another farmer that's committed suicide because Monsanto has basically robbed them of their livelihood and their lives and everything. So what she's done is she has started her own farm, and I have on the handout her website, and what you can do is look it up and see what she's doing. But what she's doing is she's growing crops there, and she's growing them organically, and she's growing them where you've got different types of crops, and the wildlife is coming back. And the soil is getting more and more fertile, and they're seeing, you know, the beneficial bugs, and they're seeing birds, and they're seeing all of this, and then what they're doing is they're taking the seeds and they're getting the seeds so they can give them to these farmers. So these farmers don't have to be stuck in this cycle, and they don't have to feel like there's no way out except to kill themselves. So she recognizes that life starts from the seed, and freedom is in the seed. And what do we have? We have Monsanto that's buying up all the seeds. And they're buying up all the seeds because ultimately they want to patent the seeds. And they're going to get rid of the diversity. I mean, there's like dozens of types of rice, but you don't see that in the grocery store. You see a couple of varieties of rice in the grocery store. They're trying to get rid of diversity. Diversity is something that helps to breed more life. So if you have an insect or something that is going to be attacking a certain type of tomato, well, you've got other types of tomato that are going to be immune to that. I mean, there's reasons to have that diversity. And if you have monocultures, it breeds disease and it breeds the dead soil. So I met her a few weeks back. She's just an amazing woman. There's a movie that you might want to check out. It's on YouTube, and it's called The Web of Life. And it's Vandana Shiva. But I love what she says. She says you cannot insert a gene, you know, from a bacteria into a seed and then call it life. You know, you've polluted the seed, which is so true. But Monsanto says, oh no, we've genetically modified it, therefore we can patent it. And they're trying to take everything else off the market, and then all there's going to be left is what they want to give us. So we can't talk about all of this stuff without talking about pollination. Because 75% of our food, it's dependent on pollination. So we got bees, we got beetles, butterflies. There's, you know, different types of insects. Bees, of course, are like the number one pollinator. But if you don't have the bees, then, you know, you're done. So what Monsanto's done is it's taken its GMO corn and it soaks it in the neonicotinoid, and it's a pesticide, it's a fungicide, and they soak it in that. And so then when the seed is planted, then supposedly you don't need as much. Well, that's not true. You do need the additional pesticides and herbicides and fungicides. But Canada has linked this to the bee colony collapse. And have you guys heard about that? Where the bee colonies are collapsing. And they didn't know why for the longest time. Well, they still don't know why because Monsanto doesn't want anybody to know why and make this connection. And beehive owners have been threatened, you know, that they can't really come out and say anything. But in Canada, they have said, okay, there's a direct link between all the pesticides, all the chemicals, and our bees are dying. So Einstein, again, says, look, if our bees are gone, then the human race is gone within 4 years. So of the 109 species of bees that were studied in the 19th century, well, right now, in 2010, or by 2010, only 54 remained. So 50% are gone. I mean, this is like scary stuff. 50% is gone. 10 million beehives gone because of this. There was a lady at the farmer's market that was so excited. She was telling me she bought 2 beehives, and she had all these plans what she was going to do with the honey and she was going to do with the wax. She was heartbroken. They deliver the bees, and you can't open the hive up. You can't do anything for a couple of weeks. And when they kind of get settled, because, you know, it's stress, they're being transported. And when she was finally able to open them up, almost all of them were dead. And, you know, there's no insurance for that. She was out all that money, but more than that, she was just heartbroken because her bees are gone. So it's a really, really big problem. And bees are amazing, amazing creatures. I mean, they give us honey, and honey is antibacterial, it's antifungal, real honey, which, by the way, most honey out there is not real honey, but real honey is very therapeutic, and it's good to have honey in your medicine cabinet. But going back to the same quote by Einstein, you know, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created the problem. However, that does not stop Monsanto. So, have you guys ever heard of super bees or robo bees? So Monsanto has a solution to all of this. So there's all this stuff going on. And of course, they're not going to acknowledge that it's because of them that there's a problem. However, what did they do? They bought Biologics. It's a big bee company. So they're buying up these companies. They're buying like every aspect of agriculture. They're buying everything up. And that's why I say this is much bigger than just GMOs. I mean, they're buying up everything. And so what they're doing is they're patenting bees. So this is one of the bees. It's a robo bee. And what they want to do is they want to use this bee so it can go and it can target the flower. And it can go in there and target and it can pollinate. I haven't found a whole lot on this, so I want to do a little bit more research on it, but there might be a link there with the government that they can be used as drones as well. Yeah. So you got these little mini drones that are collecting information about you or about people from other countries, but they're bees. And so these are set to be on the market, released out within the next 5 to 10 years. And so, yeah, so Monsanto's really proud of this. They're very proud that they're solving the problem that they created in the first place. So the solutions. I always like to present solutions because there's a lot of stuff out there that, it's ugly stuff. It's scary stuff. We don't want to have to deal with it. It'd be nice to be able to, have that red pill, the blue pill, and believe that everything on the, grocery store is good for you. But I think most of us here have taken the red pill and we want the truth. So I've told you a little bit about the truth. So be the change. This is Gandhi. Be the change. Don't get stuck in that mindset that I hear people, well, it's just me, I can't make a difference. No, you know what, you can. You can make a big difference. So there's, something called the tipping point. And Jeffrey Smith, who talks a lot about GMOs and the science behind GMOs, he talks about the tipping point. And it's really not that much. If we start buying local grown, if we start buying organic, we start paying attention, we can cause that change. So we need to be the change. Oops. And so there's another quote at the bottom here from Einstein. So on the left, it's like, what's wrong with this picture? On the left, we got all these things that are legal, like Prozac is legal, genetically modified, foods are legal. Oh, nursery water with fluoride, that's legal. All this stuff is legal. It's all like good for you. And then on the right side, it's all illegal. Selling raw milk. There's video on YouTube where FDA's come in with guns drawn at a co-op and scaring all the customers pouring out the raw milk. I mean, this is ridiculous. Collecting rainwater, you know, that's another thing that's illegal. And then, you know, 2 little girls having their nice little lemonade stand. So Einstein, he says, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. And so that's where we come in, telling our friends, telling our family members, telling our neighbors, you know, striking up a conversation at the grocery store. That's always like a big one for me. I like to do that because people are buying food. And, you know, being that change, it's important to be that change. And so every time you buy GMO, you know, you're telling them, okay, I support you. And they take it as that. On Monsanto's website, it's a beautiful website, and they talk about how they're doing all these great, wonderful things. I think they said some astronomical figure, $2.6 billion a day spent in research and development to have products for us as customers and farmers. You know, it's like, we don't want it. You know, but the way they promote that they're doing this all for us. But we need to buy local. We need to buy from our local farmer, get to know the local farmer, maybe grow some stuff, you know, yourself. And so another thing that I hear a lot is people talk about how organic is more expensive. Actually, if you go to farmer's market, I find it's cheaper. It's not more expensive, most of the items. But look at it though, not so much as, oh my gosh, this costs so much. Look at it as, you know, this is an investment in my health. You know, I want to be healthy. And, you know, as we get older, that becomes more and more a concern. We don't want to be on prescription medication. We don't want all this stuff. We want to be healthy. So looking at this as an investment in your health. So a couple other things you can do is starting out like a little herb garden to attract bees, and creating a safe place, you know, in your yard. I know a lot of us like to have the beautiful green grass in our front lawn. Those green grasses, first of all, it's really not natural for this part of the country. This is a desert. So, I mean, we complain about a drought, but we are in a desert. And there's drought-resistant plants that you can put in that are going to attract the wildlife. But grass, though, almost all grass that you're going to get, in order to keep it that luscious, beautiful green, is going to be treated. Heavily treated with pesticides and herbicides and fungicides. So growing a nice little herb garden, and growing a garden for butterflies and for hummingbirds, you know, and just to have that environment where you are creating something where you're bringing life back into your space, it just changes the whole energy of your home. You can do this very small scale. You can buy either little pots. Bernice had told me that you can use a old coconut. If you open up an old coconut, and you can plant a little, you know, herb garden in there. So there's things that you can do to get creative, and just do your little part. You know, that's all it is. And somebody comes over and says, well, wow, you got herbs there. What's that about? You know, it's just an opportunity to share as well. Plus, nothing's better than fresh herbs, right? I mean, fresh herbs are awesome. So what would happen if everybody cared? You know, that's where the tipping point comes. You know, one person makes a change, then the next person, then the next person, and, you know, educating people. And you know, let's make that change. Let's be that change. So, a little bit about me. I didn't talk about me in the beginning, but I wear 2 hats. I'm an attorney, and I help people with, you know, if they've got vaccine issues or birthing plans and personal injury cases. And also, I'm a practitioner myself, and I think there's some coupons, and I have a flyer there for you as well. But, you know, let's heal ourselves one bite at a time. And when you heal yourself one bite at a time, you're taking steps to heal the earth as well. And that's, you know, we want a nice healthy earth for our children and our grandchildren. And I love the Native Americans who have the philosophy that they're borrowing the earth from the children. You know, so they're not, you know, trampling it. They're not abusing it in any way. You know, their philosophy is let's take care of the earth because it's there for our children. So thank you very much. I want to invite you for next week. And next week we're going to talk about stress. And it's a perfect time for you guys to come because the holidays are coming. And holidays can be stressful. So thank you.